to Mastercard Sustainability Podcast series. This series is dedicated to exploring important topics related to ESG with the ultimate goal to offer fresh insights beyond the conventional discussion. I am Andrea Pražáková. I lead Mastercard Foundry, ESG and Gaming for Eastern Europe, Middle East, and Africa, and I'm super honored to be your host today. Today, we will be talking about the importance of the S in the ESG acronym, which stands for social. I'm really excited about that. At Mastercard, this is one of the key pillars of our ESG strategy globally. We not only have equal payments, $1 for the same for work of men and women, we define diversity as one of our global targets, which we are all measured by, believe it or not. Every single of our bonuses is connected to a joint performance, which we, and we don't stop there. Our solution, and our goals are to include 1 billion people into financial system, bring 25 million women SMEs, enabling small scale pharma, and I could go on and on and on. But obviously today it's not about Mastercard, but it's about a very important topic. But as you can see, this is super close to my heart. I want you to imagine a world where environment is really thriving, businesses are socially responsible, governance is transparent. It's a world where sustainability is not just a buzzword, but it's a way of life. Now, let me take you on a journey into this world where we explore the heart of ESG, the environmental, social, and governance. In this world, businesses are not only for profit making, but they have a really positive impact on the society. And I think we leave it behind so often, right? They measure not only the success in financial terms or how much of CO2 emissions they, not let in the ocean or, compensated, but really contribution to the well-being on the people and the planet. Because as somebody told me the other day, on the planet, we are like on a spaceship. We actually cannot get out, right? Maybe with Elon Musk, we will be able to become interplanetary species. So today we have a remarkable guest with me who has been driving force behind this transformative journey. She's an absolute trailblazer in the field of ESG. She's a visionary leader who understands the significance as more than anybody else. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my absolute pleasure to introduce you, Gihan Hyde, who is the CEO and founder of CommUnique, a shining example on how ESG can drive positive change. Yeah, super welcome to our podcast. I want to just do a quick introduction so that people know who you are. You are an award-winning CEO and founder of CommUnique. It's a great name, by the way, of one of the UK fastest growing ESG strategy and communication advisory firm. CommUnique is B Corporate certified, making the first Arab female founded organization to be certified in Europe, and that's really super remarkable. Gihan also is a recipient of a UK CEO of the Year award, received for the top Black leaders in UK to watch award for one of the most influential 40 under 40 communication professionals in the world, according to Campaign magazine in 2023. She's also Equitable Growth Board member of a B Corp UK and Money 2020, mentor on Accenture's FinTech Lab Innovation and the Chartered Institute of Public Relations Director of ESG and Communication. You can see I can read it because she has so many awards, I would not be able to remember it. It's just like absolutely incredible. But before Gihan founded CommUnique, she led the largest ESG diversity and employee change communication departments, including BP Workplace Sustainability, Barclays Internal Audit, HSBC Asset Management, Marks & Spencer HR, and the Riyadh Metro Project. So if you think about it, I want to put some numbers to it. I mean, her work impacted more than 150,000 employees, 200,000 customers, and 300 million worth of sales. So such a great honor to have you with us. Very warm welcome to our podcast.
Thank you for having me, Andrea. Thank you. It's very humbling hearing all of that. Thank you.
So your journey is truly inspiring for many of us. And I want to ask you a personal question first. What inspired you to create CommUnique, and how does your company help businesses to improve their ESG credentials?
So CommUnique is very young. We're only 2.5 years old, but we're growing very fast, as you mentioned. The reason I founded CommUnique is because of two reasons, actually. One, it aligns with my purpose. I wanted to bring my purpose to life. And the other one, I spotted a gap in the market that I had to fill very quickly. To start with my purpose, so my purpose in life is to help the invisible become visible. And the way we do that is we have an academy within CommUnique whereby We hire freelancers from underdeveloped countries and underrepresented communities. We coach them, we mentor them, they come and deliver the work with us. And if the clients like the work we deliver and appreciate our freelancers, they have the freedom to hire them.
That's an interesting concept.
Thank you. And I'm very pleased that so far, out of the 15 we had, 8 of them found jobs in the UK. The second reason is the gap in the market. After I left BP in 2020, when COVID hit, I realized that the problem and the pain points that the majority of clients that I talk to is, where do we start our sustainability journey from? How do we start?
Right.
And most importantly, how do we communicate it in a way that is transparent, human, and clear to avoid reputational damage? And this is where I realize, okay, Gihan, you need to step up. You need to create the company quickly and trailblaze that gap. And this is where we are now.
Amazing. You know, you're obviously a massive advocate of the S in the ESG, and I want you to elaborate for the audience. Why is it so important?
Okay, so let me first of all demystify what does social impact mean within the E and the G. Social impact is the relationship that a company has with all the human beings that it interacts with, starting with your employees, your customers, your suppliers, your community, your shareholders, for example. So if you don't have a good relationship with these humans, number one, you won't have a license to operate, basically. So beyond the regulatory approvals, there's also the social license, which refers to your local communities accepting you to be part of them, your employees being proud of you to be part of their journey and their career growth. And we all know that employees are your backbone as an organization. If you don't have the right employees, the loyal employees, the employees who see themselves represented in your organization, with this generation, no one is going to work with you.
That's true. That's so true.
No one will. Okay, so we've accepted that, and the data is telling us as well. 74% of the global millennials have said, we won't work with you if you do not highlight how your operation as a company impacts people and the planet. Number 3, okay, and that's very important, is access to capital. The investors, as we speak, if they don't see how you as an organization impacting the humans that you're working with, they won't invest in you. Because at the end of the day, people invest in people. So if you don't show that, you will not be able to grow as an organization.
You know, I want to reflect before I go to the next question, because this is such an important message to all the listeners, right? All the viewers of the podcast, because so many focus obviously on the E, but not on the S, and all these aspects which you mentioned ultimately can hinder or support my growth as a business. So, and we know that the S is not getting as much as attention. And you mentioned a couple of these things, right? And not as much attention as the E. How do you as a communication specialist help to address the companies to social issues like this?
Before I answer that question, let's take a step back and identify why is the S not gaining the right attraction as we speak. The reason why, actually there's several reasons. I'm going to share with you just a few of them, okay? Is the intangibility of the social impact.
Yeah,
it's
hard to measure.
How to measure it, exactly. So unlike the environmental metrics, such as a ton of CO2 emitted, the social impacts, it's abstract. It's not easily quantifiable. So for example, how would you measure empowerment as in an organization? So an organization might offer training programs for women in underprivileged areas, but actually measuring the genuine feeling and the effect of empowerment among the participants is extremely challenging.
I was just thinking, how can you measure, happiness in tons?
Exactly. How would you? You can't. You can, but it's not adaptable quickly, and organizations are not moving fast enough. Okay. The second reason that it's challenging to measure, and this is why it's not gaining the traction, It's the long-term effect of social impact. Social initiatives might have outcomes that would manifest over years later, which makes it impossible to evaluate the immediate assessment and the immediate impact. So I'll give you an example. If an NGO starts an educational program, let's say, for children in marginalized communities, the real impact on these children's initiatives or children's life, such as growth in work opportunities, might actually only be evident in 10 years' time. So there is you have to be very patient with your social impact initiatives. Then also the lack of standardization in the way you're measuring as well. So the metrics are not aligned. So unlike the environmental metrics, where the standards exist, like, let's say, calculating your carbon footprint, social impacts lack universally accepted measurement tools. For example, even though at the moment there is a couple of tools available, such as the social return of investment, they don't really capture the overall complexity of your initiatives.
You know, it's really fascinating, and I feel like it's important to mention also one point, because you spoke about this long term, and companies often work in these cycles, right? And people change jobs so quickly. Everybody wants to perform and get promoted, so they try for short fixes and short deliveries, but the social piece is so long term, and I mean, it's burning on my tongue to ask you, can we actually even afford to neglect this, even though it's, you know, in such a long no, wait, we didn't get into your, how do you helping your companies to communicate? Oh my goodness, I forgot my questions there. I want to go back, because before I ask you if we can neglect it, I just want to really know is, you know, we spoke about the attention, you mentioned a couple of things, right? So how do you actually help, if I'm a company, if I'm a startup or a mid-sized company who wants to go with, you know, and start to really focus, how do you at CommUnique as a communication specialist help companies address these needs and these issues?
We do it through various ways. Okay, number one, we always start with facilitating training and education.
Right.
And we start by organizing workshops for the company leaders and employees on the importance of the topic. But we also tie it back when we're training these leaders. We constantly ensure that we tie back your social initiatives to your organizational growth. Okay, because social initiatives actually could result into innovation. It could result into decision-making process, effective decision-making process, but also access to the wider pool of talent. So in our workshop, we actually provide the data that showcases why you as a company need to focus on this, and what would be the risk associated with not focusing on this. Then we take all these initiatives and change it into storytellings. Because as human, we will only connect to each other through stories.
That's true.
So we share compelling stories, we share testimonials, we share personal stories. We might not share metrics, because again, it's long term, but we share stories. Okay. One thing we're very good at, we engage stakeholders constantly, and we provide them with overarching looping of feedback. Why do we engage stakeholders? Because it's the stakeholders who are going to provide us with the stories, with the innovative way of telling these stories, but also with what they want out of a company from a social point of view. Once we achieve that, we then report it effectively and transparently. So we always advise our clients to say, listen, we might not have the accurate metrics for our social initiatives, but this is what we're trying to achieve. This is how we're trying to achieve it. And most importantly, this is the impact that we want to achieve it by.
It's really interesting, because it's almost like I'm you know, empathizing with some of these companies that even though in absence of the metrics, if I set up what my starting point is together with you, and then say by, let's say in 1 year, 5 years, whatever, I want to see that needle improving, no matter what the external metrics are, as long as I have some kind of monitoring group or I have my starting point, you can help me to achieve my own, social impact targets, right?
Oh, absolutely. And by the way, Andrea, there is so many ways you can showcase your impact. You can work very closely. So we work very closely with HR departments, for example, to understand, okay, based on the storytellings that we have put out there to the stakeholders, how did these stories and how did these initiatives result in attracting talent? How long are the talent staying with us for? What did the talent think of the stories that they've read before coming into the company, for example? How did the reputation of the company propel because of these initiatives? So there are metrics that you can use. You just need to be aware of what they are. You need to set them from the get-go before you even think of how you're going to shout about them.
Yes, that's a really good point.
Exactly. And this is what I always say to our clients. Don't just go on board in women empowerment, for example, just because everyone else is doing it.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree with you 100%.
Well, this is the thing. If it doesn't align with your purpose as a company, if it doesn't align with your sector and your best practices, don't do it. Don't do it.
It is so interesting. I was reading the other day a joke actually about aviation, because I was preparing for a podcast on aviation, and the lady was saying, she was reading that one of the airlines now has like diversity quota, right? And she said, you know what, honestly, I want a pilot who has thousands of hours behind the belt. And it doesn't matter if he's a male or a female. Some of these industries are just, historically, and now the quota is not the important. The safety of the passengers is your most important thing to take care of, right? It's like going to a surgeon. You want to have somebody who is a good doctor, and and so I think it's really, I love what you said, because often people go just with the flow because everybody is doing it. So let's set up some quotas and let's see what we can do. But does it align with my strategy? Is it relevant to my sector? Is it all of these, I think, aspects? And it's great that you're working with your customers, but it sounds like it's quite a heavy lift to focus on that. So can I neglect it? Can I do it later? Or what is your view on that?
The short answer,
can I afford to neglect it?
You can't, because if you do, you're going to alienate your stakeholders, and by stakeholders, by the way, I don't mean shareholders. I mean, again, going back to my initial point, is the humans you're interacting with as a company.
Right.
So if you neglect it and not focus on it as much as you are focusing on the E and the G, you are definitely not going to have the right talent in place, the right investors in place, or the right community to help you nourish in place.
That's really good. You mentioned a little bit earlier about this balance about financial performance, and I want to go back to that topic because it's very important. I feel today even more than it was before. So what do you think is the importance for companies? I mean, from the experience of the work you did so far and the work you did before you start CommUnique, to balance the social responsibility with the financial performance in the ESG strategy?
I think you have to balance it, because you don't have financials without the humans you're working with. But to balance it, you need to do the following, and that's what we do with our clients. We integrate it and not isolate it. Meaning, all of the ESG equally, the E, the S, and the G, we always make a point to help our clients to consider it as part of and integrate it as part of their business operations, and not treat it as a separate peripheral activity. Okay. So for example, don't have an intranet page just for ESG. You don't even need that from a company's perspective. What you need is to integrate everything you're doing in that space in your intranet as part of your day-to-day operations, and
like a business as usual, right?
It's business as usual, exactly. Another way you can integrate it, and that actually one of our clients came up with this. is offer voluntary work, voluntary days for your employees, for example, once a month, where they can go.
We have it as Mastercard. So we have a volunteer, and I volunteer. I took my son last year to go to Nepal. So many employees across Mastercard utilize this, and we volunteer every year, either together as a team or as an individuals. This year we will be going to plant some mangroves. So I think it's an amazing, amazing activity to enable volunteer days.
And what did you think of that?
I think it's incredible because you're getting paid for the days where you're helping others, and I think that's it's awesome. We did some hiking in Nepal, and then obviously from all the money we raised, the salaries for a school in Nepal for the whole year was paid, plus the books and everything else, and that makes massive impact on the community of many children and teachers, which otherwise we wouldn't have the opportunity to get paid throughout the year because they were through financial issues, right? And that's on the S part, and now we will be doing something around the E part, which is planting saplings of mangroves. But I think it's awesome, and any employee in Mastercard can take their volunteers days whenever they want, and do what's good for the world.
But did you not feel proud of being part of Mastercard?
Super proud. Oh, super proud. I think it's absolutely awesome.
Did you shout about it in your socials?
Yes.
Did you tell your friends and family that you've
done no, everything. We even did the album, and my son was like an amplifier, so he told everybody at school. So it's such a positive marketing, which we as the employees then share. And I think it makes me smile because it makes you really emotional. It makes you proud of yourself, proud of who you work for, and obviously everybody was super proud working for Mastercard that we are able to do that.
And was that not aligned to your own values and purpose?
Oh, definitely, 100%.
See, so you are a walking proof that your values align with Mastercard's values, and it was Mastercard who helped you live your values, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, but we are a big company. I think that for a small company, I guess with your guidance, need to choose the right battles, right? In terms of where do they invest, how much, what do they do, so that their financial and the social impact is some kind of balance. I think that's what you were saying.
But we don't just work with small companies. We work with large organizations. So we're working right now in Egypt with one of the biggest telecommunications companies.
That's brilliant.
And they need help, not because they can't do it themselves. They just need an outsider view to come and explain to them what's the benefits of embarking into this initiative versus that initiative. So what's the ROI, the return of investment, when it comes to reputation, loyalty, human capital. And this is where we come in. We are the external sounding board that we will come in. We will listen to your vision. We will understand your mission. And based on that, we will guide you towards the right initiatives that align with all of what you're trying to achieve.
No, I think that's really great. And I think it's a great segue to the category, because we spoke a little bit that there is no single universal, set accepted standards which measure the reporting on social performance. And it can be really, really difficult. And you said, how you obviously help the companies to set the base and then measure as they evolve. I think it'd be interesting for the audience to hear from you, from your experience, and maybe with some example, how can, in absence of these, universal sets of standards, be measured accurately in the reporting part?
First of all, use technology. Harness the power of technology. Harness the power of AI. Harness the power of blockchain. Harness the power of crypto to figure out where your money is going and who is it arriving to. Because for example, one of the issues that one of our clients faced is that the reason they couldn't figure out what is the impact of their donation is because they didn't know where the money is going to. Who is it going to be given to, if that makes sense?
Right. So
by harnessing technology like blockchain, you can trace what you have paid for. So my advice, harness technology, start using it, okay? Second, establish clear metrics. And one of the ways, so for example, for labor practices, the metrics could be the employees, the turnover of your employees, your median pay ratio, the percentage of employees undergoing regular training, for example. So there are metrics in place. You just need to decide on it before you design your initiatives.
That's really great.
Sorry, before you roll out your initiatives.
Yes, you know, all of this, what you just said, takes under assumption that the companies are willing to change, right? And we know that some companies may be very resistant to change, especially when it comes to implement ESG initiative that requires significant changes in their business practices, their culture. What are your thoughts on the regulations and the positive and negative incentive? Because we know I always says the stick and the carrot, right? So what is your view on that?
My view is that, depending, of course, of where you're based, Andrea, okay, because the regulations
I like that, yeah.
They differ from one place to another. The culture differs from one place to another. The initiatives differ from one country to another, one even region to another. So depending on where you are, you will be asked to report on your social impact one way or another. So if you're based right now in the UK, for example, the UK is forcing you to start reporting on your using the TCFD framework, which TCFD, for those of you who don't know what it means, it is a framework of reporting your environmental, social, and governance initiative, and it stands for the Task Force for Climate Financial Disclosure. From next year, the UK is asking all of the organizations to report on their social impact as well, and really
that's interesting. That's
interesting. So it's coming. What I'm trying to say is that the regulations are coming because the pressures are coming from your stakeholders and the humans you're interacting with, but also it also showcases if you don't report on it effectively, you won't contribute to our society nourishing. And if the society is not nourishing, innovation is not going to happen to help us save the planet. So we really need to focus on that. However, we're not going fast enough. That's the problem.
I am so happy you said that. I think that because it's so critical to put that kind of pressure in the sentence, right? And you know, so I can't believe, you know, the time is running so fast. I have two more questions, but one is super important. I hope you're ready for it. So this is a really heart-to-heart question, right?
Okay.
I want to ask you, what do you think is the role of empathy? What role does empathy play in developing a really effective ESG strategy?
Gosh, that's a big question, Andrea. Okay, so empathy is extremely linked to behavioral change. Okay, and the reason I'm stressing on behavioral change is because sustainability in general is all about changing your mindset and changing your behavior, whether from an environmental footprint to a social impact to how you're being governed. But empathy doesn't work by its own, and this is why when we go into a company, we combine empathy with ethnography, with anthropology, and I will explain to you how.
Yeah, I think it would be great if you can explain it to us.
Okay, so empathy, we start with empathy. And why we do that? Because empathy allows companies and us to understand what are the feelings, what are the thoughts, what are the experiences that our stakeholder will be going through. Okay, and when we tap into these emotions and perspective, we can then craft the right messaging and the right initiatives, okay, that would resonate with our target market, okay, and that would be driving the behavioral change. So that's with empathy. We then combine it with ethnography, and ethnography is the research method that we use to study cultures and groups. And why do we do that? Because it offers in-depth insight into how people live and think and feel. So different than empathy.
Very different, yes.
Very different. Then by using ethnography methods, okay, we actually gain a richer understanding on how they live and how they behave. Okay, and this is where we then try and decide which initiatives will be cultural sensitive and which initiatives will not be. Okay?
Okay.
Last but not least, anthropology.
I'm very curious about that.
Yeah. Why do we do that? Because anthropology, in essence, is the study of the human society. It's the society in general. Okay, and it gives us a holistic view of how we behave as individuals. Why we do that? Because we want to understand that if the initiatives we're about to design, is it going to be superficial, or is it really going to target the heart and the minds of our target market or target societies? So this is where we combine all three of them together. And it's amazing. It's amazing how it's interesting. So when we come in, the clients will always say to us, oh, yeah, we're thinking about X initiative and we want to do B initiative and we don't want to do C initiative. And we always say, no. We need to make sure, first of all, these initiatives are going to resonate. Okay, because if I am talking about sustainability, let's say I'm talking about recycling, Andrea. Okay, let's say one of the initiative is to create a recycling hub in a community, and we're going to employ half of the community and pay them to help with this recycling factory, which will generate income to the society that we're operating in. But if we do that, and the community itself doesn't even understand what recycling is, there's no point.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, I like that.
We need to go deep, dive deep and understand, does the community understand what recycling is? If they don't, why they don't, and how do we then change their mindset to help us recycle more effectively? Because these workers are not going to act as our advocates. We won't even have anything to recycle, Andrea.
Yes.
You know,
yeah, that's so right. Yeah, I think that I love it in the linkage, you know, and it's true.
So that's how we use empathy, ethnography, and anthropology in the way we define what initiative resonates with which communities.
Awesome. So my final question, Gihan, is, you know, we spoke about so many topics, and I just want you to, you know, what would you leave the audience with? What is some of your final thoughts, which would you like to scream into the universe, if you would want, you know, if you, I mean, please don't scream, but if you would want to shout out to the universe, you know?
Don't embark on an initiative just because others are doing so. And involve your employees and your stakeholders when you're designing these initiatives. Because without them, you don't have any ideas to implement, and you definitely don't have the right metrics in place.
Awesome.
So take your time, don't rush it.
Take your time. Very nice. So, you know, as we conclude today's episode, remember that ESG is just not about doing good, but it's really about embracing the S in the ESG measure integrated into your strategy. And, you know, and I really love that what you said, Gihan, that you're helping companies invisible to become visible. And I think I thought that this really resonated with me. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your journey. I feel really inspired and I learned so many new things. And for the audience, please stay committed to creating more sustainable and responsible world. Involve your employees, integrate, not isolate, as Gihan said. And this is, you know, the end of our this podcast series. This is Mastercard Sustainability Podcast. I'm signing off together with Gihan. Stay curious and make a positive impact on the world. Thank you very much.